The city slept under a blanket of mist and moonlight when she saw him for the first time. The air carried the soft hum of midnight, restless, alive, almost whispering secrets to those awake to hear them. Standing beneath an old lamppost by the river, her dark hair caught the glow like liquid silk, her eyes reflecting both wonder and hesitation. She hadn't meant to wander this far from the noise of her thoughts, but something about the stillness drew her in, something that felt like destiny waiting in disguise. Then he appeared, walking slowly through the quiet street, his hands buried in his coat pockets, his gaze distant until it found hers. The world seemed to pause. Their eyes met across the empty path, and suddenly the cold no longer mattered. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition, a quiet ache that whispered, "I've known you before." Neither of them spoke at first. Words would have broken the spell. Instead, they stood there, caught in that strange magic of the night, where time didn't move forward but circled back, drawing them closer with every breath.
Emma,
When he
can't
finally
stop
stepped
thinking
nearer,
about you.
his voice was low, almost
I know
unsure,
it's late,
but warm enough
but I
to
had
chase
to
away
see
the
you.
chill. You shouldn't be out here this late, he
late.
said. She smiled faintly, tilting her head. Maybe I was meant to be. And in that single exchange, the night decided two strangers would no longer walk alone. He stopped just a few steps away from her, close enough for her to see the faint trace of tiredness beneath his eyes, the kind that spoke of sleepless nights and quiet battles. The river behind them shimmered faintly under the moon, casting ripples of silver light that danced across their faces. For a moment, neither of them knew what to say. It wasn't awkward, it was electric, charged with something both fragile and infinite. He smiled then, a small, hesitant curve that reached his eyes, softening his features. "You look like someone who belongs to the night," he murmured. She laughed quietly, her breath visible in the cool air. "And you look like someone who's been waiting for it." The words slipped out before she could stop them, but he didn't flinch, he just stepped closer, until she could feel the warmth radiating from him, until the rhythm of their breaths seemed to find the same pace. The city around them remained still, as if holding its breath. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, his fingers lingering longer than necessary, the simple touch sending a tremor through her. She looked up at him, her heartbeat quickening in her chest, and in that gaze, everything was understood: loneliness, longing, and the fragile hope of finding something real, even just for one night. "Do you ever feel," she whispered, "like some moments aren't meant to last, but they're still worth everything?" He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "This feels like one of them." And with that, silence reclaimed the night, but it wasn't empty anymore, it was full of something tender, something waiting to become love. The night seemed to fold around them as if it too wanted to keep their secret. The soft wind brushed past, carrying the scent of rain and something sweeter, her perfume, faint and intoxicating. He could hear the quiet tremble in her breath as he stepped closer, their shadows blending into one beneath the golden light of the lamppost. Neither spoke, they didn't need to. Words had already surrendered to something far more honest, the language of nearness, of hearts speaking without permission. His hand found hers, fingers grazing before settling into a steady clasp, and she felt the spark leap between them like a heartbeat made visible. He looked at her, really looked, as though memorizing every line of her face, the curve of her lips, the light in her eyes, the way the moonlight caught in her hair like silver dust. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, unable to trust her voice. The space between them vanished, drawn together not by impulse but by something ancient and gentle. When his forehead rested against hers, time dissolved. Her hands moved on instinct, resting against his chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath beneath her palms. His thumb brushed against her jaw, tracing it slowly before tilting her face up to meet his. Their eyes met once more, and this time, they didn't look away. The first kiss was soft, uncertain, searching, but it carried the weight of every unsaid word, every lonely night, every dream of being seen. And when they finally parted, just enough to breathe, neither could help but smile. The world had shifted, quietly, beautifully, as if love itself had found them exactly where they were meant to be. The world beyond them faded until there was nothing left but the quiet rhythm of their hearts, the soft hum of the night, and the warmth that bloomed where their lips met again. This time, the kiss was no longer tentative, it was slow, certain, and full of everything they had been too afraid to feel. Her fingers found their way to the back of his neck, her touch gentle but sure, pulling him closer as if afraid he might disappear with the dawn. His arms wrapped around her, steady and protective, holding her against him as though she belonged nowhere else. The city lights flickered in the distance, reflections gliding across the river like small, trembling stars. Every breath between them carried promise, every heartbeat was a confession neither needed to speak aloud. When they finally broke apart, she rested her head against his chest, listening to the wild, steady rhythm beneath. "You make it hard to remember the world," she whispered. He smiled against her hair, his breath warm on her temple. "Maybe that's what the night is for, to forget everything but this." Around them, the air shimmered with quiet magic, the kind that didn't ask for forever, only for the courage to feel deeply, even if only for a moment. The moon hung low, watching over them like a silent witness to their closeness, their laughter, their unguarded hearts. It wasn't just romance, it was connection, raw and unspoken, built not on promises, but on the rare truth of being fully seen. The first light of morning began to seep into the sky, pale and gold, stretching gently across the sleeping city. The river caught the glow, scattering it in trembling shards that danced across their faces. She lifted her head, her eyes finding his, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke, they simply watched the horizon change color together, the way two souls might watch a shared dream fade into waking. "I wish the night didn't have to end," she said softly, her voice carrying the quiet ache of truth. He smiled, brushing his thumb over her cheek, the gesture tender, almost reverent. "Maybe it doesn't," he whispered. "Maybe some nights stay with us, even after the sun rises." She wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to the warmth of his touch, the taste of his kiss, the safety she had found in his arms. But there was something deeper, something timeless in the way they looked at each other, as though both already knew that love like this wasn't meant to fade, it would simply live differently, in memory, in heartbeat, in the quiet moments when the world felt still. They stood there until the sky bloomed fully into light, their fingers still intertwined, reluctant to let go. When she finally stepped back, she smiled through the soft shimmer in her eyes. "If we ever meet again," she whispered, "let it be under the same moon." He nodded, his voice low and sure. "I'll be waiting." And as the city woke around them, as footsteps and laughter began to fill the air once more, the night that had brought them together slipped quietly into history, yet its echo remained, tender and eternal, written in the space between two hearts that had found each other, if only for a moment, beneath the silver light of midnight.